Hello and welcome to Kim Reads. Chapter 21 of Among the Hidden. In February, Dad got the letter from the government forbidding him to try to grow anything indoors. It has come to our attention that you have been purchasing excess amounts of plastic pipe, such as used in the germination, cultivation, and development of vegetative matter and interior structure, the letter began. Due to the preponderance of such agricultural methods in the cultivation of illegal substances, we urge you to cease and desist immediately. Luke read the paper at supper. After everyone else in the family had a stab at trying to figure out what it meant, somehow, after reading all the big books Jen had loaned him, he didn't find the fancy words so daunting. "They want you to stop," Luke said. "They're scared you're going to grow something illegal. And this part," he pointed to the letter, although everyone else was in the table several feet away, and he was in his usual spot on the stairs. "This part, they say, render all such materials for our adjudication. That means you have to turn over the stuff you bought and they'll decide if they're going to find you or not." The rest of the family looked at Luke in amazement. Then Mark started giggling. "Drugs," he said. "They think you're gonna grow drugs." Dad flashed him a look of pure disgust. "Think this is funny? Well, we'll see what you think next year when your feet grow and you don't have money for new shoes." Mark stopped laughing. "We'll get by, Luke's mother said quietly. "We always have." Dad shoved back from the table. "Why didn't I get a permit?" he asked no one in particular. "Maybe if I got a permit." By then Luke had read the rest of the letter. "They don't give out permits for hydroponics," he said. "They say it's always illegal." This time he only got a glare from Dad. Luke felt his father's disappointment, and seeing his parents so worried about money made a small voice whispered in the back of his head, "Maybe if they didn't have you, they could afford everything they want." But he didn't need that much, and all of his clothes were hand-me-downs from Matthew and Mark. And how much could it cost to heat this attic room? Sometimes he found ice crystals on the chair he sat in to watch the neighborhood. He tried to ignore the voice. What bothered him more than that was, without the hydroponics idea to keep him busy, Dad barely left the farm for the rest of the winter. Luke made over to Jen's only once in all of February and twice in March, when Dad began driving around looking for the best seed corn prices. But each time, Jen greeted him with big hugs and acted genuinely thrilled to see him. Her tantrum in January seemed forgotten. One day, the two of them made a huge mess of the Talbots' kitchen baking cookies. "Won't you parents mind?" Luke asked when Jen scolded him for attempting to clean the handprints off the cabinets and refrigerator and stove. "Are you kidding? I want this place preserved. They'll be thrilled to see any sign of domesticity on my part," Jen said. Another time they played board games all morning, sprawled out over the floor of the Talbots' family room. The third day, they just spent the whole time talking. Jen kept Luke enthralled with stories of the places she'd been, people she'd met, things she'd seen. "When I was little, Mom used to take me to a playgroup that was all third children," Jen said. She giggled. "The thing was, it was all government officials' kids. I think some of the parents didn't even like kids. They just thought it was a status symbol to break the population police and get away with it." "What did you do at the playgroup?" Luke asked. "Played, of course. Everyone had a lot of toys. And one of the kids had a dog he brought with him sometimes, and we took all turns feeding its biscuits." "Those people had pets too?" Luke asked incredulously. "Well, they were barons," Jen said. Luke frowned. He slid down on the soft couch, so different from anything in his own house. "My dad says that when he was little, just about everyone he knew had pets. He had a dog named Bootsy and a cat named Stripe." He talked about them all the time. Why'd they make pets illegal? Oh, you know, the food thing, Jen said. She took a chocolate chip cookie from the pack they were sharing and waved it for emphasis. Without dogs and cats, there's more food for humans. My dad said if it weren't for the Barons breaking the law, lots of species would have gone extinct. Luke looked at the cookie in his own hand, so now he was supposed to feel guilty about eating food that should have gone to animals as well as to other people. Jen saw his expression. Hey, don't go dopey on me, she said. It's all a scam, remember? There's more than enough food in the world, especially now that there aren't enough babies being born. What? Luke asked. Well, besides passing the population law, the government went on this big campaign to make think there was something evil to get pregnant and have kids. They put up posters up in all cities with things like, "Who's the worst criminal?" under a picture of a pregnant lady and, I don't know, some tough-looking crooks. And then if you read the whole sign, it'd tell you the woman was the worst of all. Another one, Jen giggled, it had a picture of a huge pregnant belly with the labels, "Ladies, do you want to look like this?" And women aren't allowed to go anywhere once they got pregnant. So my dad told me there are so few babies being born that the population's going to be cut in half. Luke shook his head, confused as usual. So why doesn't the government take down the signs and let people have as many babies as they want? Jen rolled her eyes. Luke, you've got to quit thinking that makes any sense. It's the government. Remember, that's why we've got to have the rally. Luke changed the subject as quickly as he could. What do women do if they can't go anywhere the whole time they're pregnant? I don't know about humans, but pigs take almost 4 months to have a baby. Do the women stay home all the time? Hiding like us, you mean? Jen asked, but she took the distraction. Lots of them pretending they're just getting fat. My mom said she went shopping the day before I was born, and nobody noticed. But that's my mom and shopping. And then she was off on a tale about her mother taking Jen shopping in a city 10 hours away just because she heard a store sold good purses there. That's probably the only reason my brothers don't turn me in, Jen said. If she didn't have me, my mother would drag them around shopping. Can you see those two gorillas with shopping bags? Jen did an expression walking around with her arms dragging from imaginary loaded down bags. Even though Luke had always seen her brother from a distance, he caught the resemblance and laughed. Your brothers would never turn you in, he protested. Would they? Of course not, Jen agreed. They love me. She hugged herself mockingly and flopped back onto the couch beside Luke. Anyhow, they wouldn't be smart enough to figure out how to turn me in without getting the rest of the family in trouble. What about your brothers? Well, they're not stupid, Luke said defensively. Or do you mean, would they ever betray you? Jen narrowed her eyes, truly curious. Not now necessarily, but say years from now, if your parents are dead and it wouldn't hurt anybody but you, and they get lots of money for it. It was a question Luke had never considered, but he knew the answer. Never, he said, his voice cracked with earnestness. I can trust them. I mean, we grew up together. It was strange how he could be so sure because they barely took time to even tease him anymore. Matthew was getting very serious with his girlfriend and spent every moment at her house. Mark had suddenly gone basketball crazy and talked Dad into nailing an old tire rim on the front of the barn for a hoop. Luke could hear him outside throwing balls late into the night. No matter how certain he was of their loyalty, Luke sometimes felt like his brothers had outgrown him. He missed them. But it didn't matter. He had Jen now. Luke kept Jen from talking about the rally the rest of the day, and they didn't even go near the computer. They just had fun. He crawled back into his house a few hours later, thinking he didn't mind at all anymore, having to hide. He could go on his way forever, as long as he got to visit Jen. The leaves would come back to the trees soon, and he'd feel even safer on his trips to her house. And when planting season started, Dad would be out in the fields all day, and Luke could see Jen all the time. But April came before planting season. Chapter 22. It rained the first 2 weeks of April, and Luke was in a tizzy wondering when he would ever get to see Jen again. Finally, the ground dried out, and Dad headed out to the fields to plow. Luke raced to Jen's house. "Oh, good," she greeted him. "You can get the advanced battle plans. I was afraid we were going to have to pick up you Thursday night and fill you in then." Luke carefully slid the door shut behind him and straightened the blind so he and Jen would be totally hidden. Then he turned to her. "What are you talking about?" he asked, but he knew. His heart began to thump harder than it had in the rush through the backyards. "The rally, of course," Jen said impatiently. "Everything's set. I'm taking one of my parents' cars, and I'm picking up 3 other kids on my way. But I'm sure there'd be room for you. You should feel lucky. Lots of kids are just going to walk. We're all meeting at the president's house at 6 a.m. Luke clutched the cord to the blinds. "Do you know how to drive?" he asked. "Well enough," She flashed him a wicked grin. "My brothers told me how. Come on." She waved him over to the couch. He sank into the while Jen perched the edge. "What if the population police stop you before you get to the U.S. Capitol?" he asked. "Us, you mean?" "We. You're going to, remember? Don't worry, nobody will stop us," she giggled. "I checked the National Employee Staffing Schedule through the computer. Let's just say several of the population police got some unexpected days off." "You mean you changed your schedules? You can do that?" Jen nodded, a wicked gleam in her eye. "It took me a whole month to figure out how, but you are now looking at an accomplished hacker." Dimly, Luke realized why Jen had seemed so relaxed and happy on his last several visits. They'd been vacations for her, breaks from intense work on plans for the rally. He looked closer and saw the fatigue in her eyes. She looked like a younger version of Mom after a 12-hour shift in the chicken factory, or Dad after a long day of baling hay. But there was something in her expression. His parents had never looked so feverishly guilty. "What if someone finds out what you did and changes it back?" Jen shook her head. "They won't. I was very selective. I coordinated everyone's travel plans and only eliminated the police who had to be eliminated. Aren't you excited? We're going to be free after all these years." She leaned down and pulled a sheaf of papers out from under the couch. "Best hiding place in the world. The maid's too lazy to clean under there. Now let's see. I'll pick you up at 10 p.m. and..." Luke was glad she was looking at the papers instead of him. He wouldn't have been able to meet her eyes. "Okay, so nobody's going to be caught on the way to the Capitol. But once you're there, at the president's house, someone will call the population police. And then..." Luke felt panicky just thinking about it. Jen wasn't fazed. "So what?" she said. "I don't care who gets called once we're there. Heck, I may call the population police myself. They're not going to do anything to a crowd of 1,000, especially not when lots of us are related to government officials. We'll make them listen to us. We're a revolution." Luke looked away. "But your friends, you were mad at them because they weren't into it. What if they don't show up?" "What do you mean?" Jen's voice was fierce. Luke could barely speak for the panic welling inside him. "In the chat room, they were making jokes, Carlos, Sheen, and others. You said they weren't taking it seriously." "Oh, that was a long time ago. They're all on board. They're psyched. Why, Carlos is my lieutenant in all of this. You wouldn't believe how much he's held. So, okay, 10 o'clock, and then it's 8 hours to the Capitol, and what kind of sign do you want to carry? I deserve life, or end the population law now, or this one I found in an old book, give me liberty or give me death." Luke tried to imagine what Jen seemed to be taking for granted. He could get in a car. He sat in the picket for a bar in the barn, a car that wasn't much different. And for 8 hours, that's all he had to do. Sit. Not that difficult, except that panic would be coursing through him for the entire 8 hours because of where the car was going. And then to get out in public at the president's house and carry a sign, his imagination failed. He broke out in a cold sweat. Jen, He started. Yes? Jen waited. The silence between them seemed to be growing like a balloon. Luke struggled to speak. I can't go. Jen gaped at him. I can't go, he said weakly. Jen shook her head briskly. Yes, you can, she said. I know you're scared. Who isn't? But this is important. Do you want to hide all your life, or do you want to change history? Luke made a stab at humor. Is there another choice? Jen didn't laugh. She sprang from the couch. Another choice, another choice. She paced, then jerked back to face Luke. Sure, you can be a coward and hope someone else changes the world for you. You would hide up in that attic of yours until someone knocks on your door and says, oh yeah, they freed the hidden. Want to come out? Is that what you want? Luke didn't answer. You've got to come, Luke, or you'll hate yourself the rest of your life. When you don't have to hide anymore, even years from now, there'll always be some part of you whispering, I don't deserve this. I didn't fight for it. I'm not worth it. And you are, Luke. You are. You're smart and funny and nice, and you should be living life instead of being buried alive in that old house of yours. Maybe I just don't mind hiding as much as you do. Luke whispered. Jen faced him squarely, her gaze unwavering. Yes, you do. You hate the walls as much as I do. Maybe more. Have you ever listened to yourself? Every time you talk about how you used to go outdoors and work in the gardens or something, you glow. You're alive. Even if you don't want anything else. Don't you want to be out back again? When Luke wanted to get away from Jen, because she was right. Everything she said was right. But that couldn't mean he had to go. He huddled deeper and deeper in the couch. I'm not brave like you, he said. Jen grabbed his shoulders and peered into his eyes. Oh, yeah, she said. You dared to come over here, didn't you? And here's something. Why are you always the one who makes the trip? Ever think of that? If I'm so much braver, how come I'm not risking my life to see you? There was 1,000 answers to that. Because I found you first. Because your house is safer than mine. Because I need you more than you need me. You've got a computer and all your chat room and friends. And you go places. Luke scorned away. My dad hangs around my house too much, he said. It's safer this way. I'm just protecting you. Jen backed up. Thanks for the chivalry, she said bitterly. I've got enough people protecting me. If you care so much, why don't you help me get free? You say you don't want to come to the rally for yourself, so do it for me. That's all I'll ever ask of you. Luke winced. When she put things that way, how could he not go? Except he couldn't. You're crazy, he said. I can't go, and neither should you.